Yes, Jace is wearing a Peppa Pig crop top because we are modest here on this channel. Thank you. Well, I mean, he's still wearing a crop top, but I was not cutting around these freaking buildings. Alrighty, hello. Welcome to another video. I thought that maybe you guys could get to know me a little better and know my reading tastes a little more. So today, I'm going to talk about my favorite books. I'm just gonna roll with it, okay? Okay, so the first book that I'm going to talk about is The Reason How I Discovered a Life Worth Living by Lacey Sturm. Basically, Lacey Sturm wrote about her experiences with sadness and depression and just life, and how she came to find Jesus and how that turned her life around. If you don't know, Lacey Sturm was actually the original lead singer for a Christian rock band titled Flyleaf, and they're one of my favorite bands, so obviously I had to get this book and read it, because, you know, gotta support those people. What am I saying? I don't know. This was a really good book. I highly recommend it. It was very insightful. Next book that I'm going to talk about. This is what I mean when I say my choices could change at any given minute. This book was a favorite of mine for several years. I'm currently in the process of rereading it. This is going to stay on this list for right now until I have figured out how I feel about this book right now. Okay? Okay. The book that I'm talking about is Divergent by Veronica Roth. This book follows Beatrice Pryor, who is a 16-year-old girl living in a dystopian Chicago where the society has been split up into 5 factions. Abnegation, who value selflessness, Amity, who value peacefulness, Candor, who value truth and honesty, Dauntless, who value courage and bravery, I can't count like this on my fingers, and Erudite, who value learning and knowledge. Now, in this society, when you reach the age of 16, you have to take an aptitude test, and that aptitude test basically tells you which faction you are best suited for. Based on the results of your aptitude test, you will essentially choose which faction you will spend the rest of your life in. Beatrice has reached 16. She has to take the aptitude test. Most of the time, a majority of the time, people only get one faction back in their aptitude test results. Beatrice, however, gets 3. Those who get more than one faction back in their results are categorized as divergent and must keep that hidden, because there are people who hate divergence, and it's just imperative that they keep it a secret, otherwise it could harm them. So, that's a good time. So Tris struggles with her divergence and her identity and what all of this means, and last I checked, it was a good book. It was my favorite, obviously. Yeah. Next book that I'm going to talk about is The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. First book in the Percy Jackson series. I would do the entire Percy Jackson series, but I don't want to hold up all 5 books. So this is the placekeeper, or placeholder, I guess, for this series. This series follows Percy Jackson, who at the start of it is a 12-year-old boy who's found out that he's not just a normal kid, he is a demigod. A demigod is a child of a Greek god and immortal. Well, he finds out he's the son of Poseidon, and now basically the series follows him as he goes on all these quests to, you know, help out the Greek gods and maintain peace and all this wacky stuff, and it's great. You should read it. Next book on this list is in relation to The Lightning Thief, and that is The Lost Hero, the first book in the Heroes of Olympus series. I really mean the entirety of this series, but I am not holding up all 5 books because, while these books may be like kind of small, this series is by no means small. I mean, look at that. That's a chunker right there. So, basically, this series how do I describe this series? It's a spin-off series of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, where we get to see more of the craziness that is going on in Percy's life along with all of his friends, but we also meet new characters, and it's great, and I love it a lot. The next book, this is a placeholder. However, this is my favorite book within this trilogy. Okay? Okay. The book that I am talking about is Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. This, oh my gosh. This book brought forth so many emotions. Now, we don't talk about the epilogue because that's too much, but we will talk about the rest of the story. This is the conclusion to the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare. This book contains some craziness in it. It is 500 plus pages of emotional turmoil, but I love it anyway. Okay? This trilogy follows Tessa Gray, who has taken the long voyage from America to England, where her brother is currently residing. When she gets there, she's kidnapped by these creepy freaking sisters, and then she is rescued by Will Herondale and James Carstairs, or Jem. And this book just follows Tessa trying to come to terms with the fact that nothing is as she thought and her world is now changed forever, and a lot of craziness, okay? Oh. I highly recommend reading these books because they're just really good and I love them, okay? Okay. This book is in that same vein, and by that same vein, I mean by that same author. And this is not a placeholder for the series because I've only read this book. This is the only book I've read in the series. And that book is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. This book follows Clary Frey, who thought she was a normal girl, like most of these books. Basically, she kind of goes out to like an all-ages club or something. I don't totally remember, which is bad because I just read this book in March, but whatever. She goes out to a club with her friend Simon for the night because they're gonna, you know, have fun or whatever. And there she sees something weird going down. And when she goes to check it out, she finds out that she can see things that other people can't. And so basically, Clary is introduced to the world of shadow hunters, and she is finding out that everything that she thought she knew about the world and life is suddenly not true, and now she's grappling with that fact. She's also got to find her mom because her mom was kidnapped. It's craziness, man. Craziness. I liked it. I thought it was very enjoyable, if you can tell by those tabbies. Oh, there we go. That's better. If you can tell by the tabbies. I really enjoyed this. That twist, though. Like, I already have spoilers for this series, so I know that, like, that twist that they threw in at the end isn't actually true. Doesn't make it feel any less weird, though. So, like, the next book on this list may shock you. It won't shock my friends when they watch this video, but it may shock you, viewer at home, who does not know me personally. This next book is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Fun fact, I love the macabre. I love all things spooky. I love horror. I love thrillers. I just love basically anything that is kind of the equivalent to Halloween. I love that because I love Halloween. This book, oh my goodness, this book it needs a reread. Let's just say that. It needs a reread. If you don't know, this book follows a doctor, Dr. Frankenstein, who is set out on this mission to try to create life from dead body parts, because that's what normal people do. He finds out that, you know, that's not really a good idea, because he creates this monster and then wishes he never created it, because this monster just absolutely ruins his life. And this monster is just like, he's like an emo sad boy who hates life, and he wishes he did not exist either. So, to get revenge on Dr. Frankenstein for essentially creating him, he sets out to ruin the doctor's life. It's a story of love and loss and revenge, and it teaches you a valuable lesson. Don't play God. Simple as that. The next book on my list is this collection of poetry by Emily Dickinson. I read this in January, I believe. I saw clips for the show Dickinson on Apple TV. I do not have Apple TV, so I'm just living vicariously through these like Emily Dickinson compilation videos, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And suddenly, I needed to read Emily Dickinson poetry. More than the like 2 or 3 poems that I read in school that I'd already forgotten about. So, I got this, because I wanted these poems. I wanted to read them. And I did, and they were great. I don't really have a synopsis for you, because it's just a collection of poems. In this specific bind-up of poems, the poems are separated into the years that she wrote them, I believe, and then they are split up into categories: life, love, nature, time and eternity. Time and eternity sections hold my favorite poems, but you know, whatever. These are great poems, and I definitely recommend reading them. This poetry is actually pretty easy to read and understand, unlike a lot of classical poetry and prose, and I think that this is definitely a good place to start. Or it's a good place to just dip your toe in and then just stay there, because it's great. And I definitely recommend it, because now I am an Emily Dickinson fan and I love her poetry. I'm counting some manga on this list too. So, first up, we have Ouran High School Host Club by Bisco Hattori. Yeah, Bisco Hattori. This, I've not fully read this series. I have watched the entirety of the anime, and so far, it's pretty close. Ooh, almost dropped that. This series follows Haruhi, who is essentially a regular teenage girl. She's a middle-class Japanese person, I don't know. And she, because she is so smart, she has been able to get a scholarship into this very prestigious school that only rich kids really go to. One day, while she's trying to find a quiet place to study, she stumbles into a music room that appears to be seldom used. And when she stumbles in there, literally, she ends up meeting the host club and accidentally breaking a vase that was worth like a lot of money. So because she is middle class or whatever, she doesn't necessarily have the money to pay for the vase. So the host club strikes up a deal with her that she will do whatever they need her to do in the host club, and that will basically pay off this debt that she now owes. And it's a lot of shenanigans and craziness and hijinks, and the characters are great. The book on this list is also a manga, and that is Maidsama by Hiro Fujiwara. Maidsama follows Misaki, right here, who is the class president at a previously all-boys turned co-ed high school. She is known as the demon president because she cracks down on the boys and makes sure that they are following the rules that the school has set in place. Along with being the class president at her school, Misaki also works a part-time job to help her family get by. This job is waitressing at a maid cafe. She cannot let this secret get out, otherwise it could damage her reputation as demon president, and no one would really respect her authority or listen to her. Well, one day, the most popular guy in school, Takumi, this guy, ends up coming across her while she is taking the trash out at this maid cafe. He ends up agreeing to keep her job a secret. They become friends. It's a great series. It's hilarious. I love it. It's one of my favorites. We're moving on to contemporaries. The next book on this list is, surprise, no one's going to really be surprised at this one, Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This book, I feel like I've described this book many times, so I'm getting better at it. In this book, we have Frances, who is head girl at her school, who spends all her time studying and also making fan art for her favorite podcast, Universe City. We also have Alad, who is known as a smart, quiet kid who doesn't really talk much. He is also the creator of Universe City, Radio Silence. Nobody knows that he's Radio Silence, and he intends to keep it that way. Well, one day Frances gets a message on Twitter from Radio Silence asking if she would like to do the art for upcoming Universe City episodes. Obviously, she says yes, because she freaking loves Universe City. And so, her and Alad end up meeting. They spend the entire summer working on Universe City together and becoming best friends. Everything's going great until it isn't. Alad's identity gets leaked, something that he never wanted to happen, and now Frances is worried about Alad and their friendship and the future of Universe City. This book, I feel like that is the only way I can accurately describe the plot for this book, because you get to a certain point where everything that I've just talked about happens and you're just in for a joyride, essentially. This is really good. I'm still in the middle of rereading this. I am on page 136 and I am loving it. Can you see all the tabbies? Can you see all the tabbies? Kind of. It's probably blurry because the camera's focused on me. Haha. This book is so good. It's one of the few, I guess, contemporaries, you could say, that I have read that focuses more on friendship than it does on a romance or anything like that. And I feel like we don't see enough of that in literature, and I just really loved it. Frances and Alad's relationship is just one of my favorite things to ever exist in a book. Also, Alad's Babar jacket, I want that. Just putting it out there. I would like Alad's Babar jacket. It's a random thing, but I'm glad it's in this book. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. This book follows Natasha, who is a Jamaican immigrant. She has been living in the United States with her family for a majority of her life. Unfortunately, their visas have expired. They have not been able to renew them or get legitimate citizenship. So they are forced to leave the country. This book takes place on their last day in the country, and Natasha is doing everything in her power to try and get citizenship. This book also follows Daniel, who is a Korean American who is basically on his way to like a big interview with, I don't remember which school he's going to, but he is getting ready for this really big interview at a college. His and Natasha's paths cross. They end up spending the day together, falling in love, only to be ripped apart. It's sad, it's beautiful, and I love it. Oh my gosh, it was such a good book. I highly recommend reading this. There were a few things that I did not necessarily agree with, but it's a beautiful story, and I love the characters, and it's great. The next book on this list is 12 Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is a placeholder for the entire trilogy because I love these books so freaking much. This book follows Lara Jean, who every time she has had a crush that has felt so intense, she writes a love letter to that boy, seals it, signs it, and then sticks it in a hat box so nobody can ever read it. Well, with her sister gone off to college, her taking up the duties of the oldest daughter in the house, she finds out that these letters have been sent. And now her life is about to be completely messed up. There were a total of 5 love letters that got sent out. She doesn't know who sent them out. They've been sent out. Now she has to deal with the aftermath. It's got one of my favorite tropes, fake dating. Peter Kavinsky, we love him here. You should read it. It's very, it's a wholesome, fluffy contemporary that I feel like everybody should read because it's just so adorable and cute, and I love it. Okay. Next book you've probably seen me talk about several times on this channel. That book is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. This book follows Louisa Clark, who has lost her job at Buttered Bun, a cafe in the small town that she lives in England. One day, upon going to the job center, she finds an opening for a companion / caregiver to a disabled man. She ends up taking the job, and there she meets Will Trainer, who is an ex-businessman who was in a horrible accident that has left him in a wheelchair. They end up learning a lot from each other and teaching each other a lot about life and all its complexities, and it's a sad story, but it's also incredibly beautiful. And I know that there are some controversial things in this book, but if you can look past that and just see the book for what it is, which is just a story about 2 people who end up falling in love and unfortunately are not meant to be, then I think you'll really enjoy it. And it's a really good book. I love it, even if it does make me sad and cry buckets of tears, but you know, whatever, that's beside the point. Just read it, it's good. The next book on this list is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. This book follows Kath, who is a freshman in college. While she is trying to learn about college life and cope with all these new complexities about this experience, I guess, she is also trying to keep her fanfiction, Carry On Simon, up to date because it has grown such a large fan base within the Simon Snow fandom. She's also trying to check on her dad and make sure that he's okay and that he's taking care of himself, and just there's a lot of emotions that happen while reading this. There's character development, there are complex situations that just, oh my gosh, Rainbow Rowell really knows how to write complex character and storyline, and it's great. You should read it because it's light, it's fluffy, it's fun, but it's also serious at times, and I love it. Also, hold on, the cover on this edition has a coffee cup on it that says Kath, and it's one of my favorite things. Okay, final book. On this list is one that I hold very dear to my heart, and that is 5 Feet Apart by several authors. I'm not going to say all of their names because I will butcher them and I don't want to do that to them. So this book follows Stella, who is a teenage girl who has cystic fibrosis. She is back in the hospital for more treatments, and there she meets Will. Will is also a cystic fibrosis patient, and all medical guidelines dictate that they should stay no less than 6 feet apart. Well, Stella decides 6 feet is too far. It's not good enough. So she decides that she is going to steal 1 foot back. So now she will be standing 5 feet apart from Will. This, oh my gosh. First of all, this book is so good. If you only ever read one contemporary in your entire life, please read this book because it is just so good. This book really teaches you to not take anything for granted, really. Don't take the time you have with someone for granted. Don't take their touch, their hugs, anything. Treasure all of it because you never know if you will get it again. It's a sad story. It's a beautiful story. Please read it. This is the only book that I think I will actually push at you and say, please read it. Because it's that good. This has been my favorite books of all time for right now. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. I try to post videos every week. Who knows when I post them, but I try to post them every week. So there's that. If you would like to, you can subscribe down here. You can also hit the little notification bell, and that will notify you of when I post new videos. Over here will be my last video, and over here will be my channel icon, and that will take you to my channel where you can browse my other videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week with a new video. Bye!